Hey, how you guys doing? New phone, who dis? This is a pickups video, and it's actually an incomplete one because some of the stuff is actually at my office. So I'll probably make a part 2 at some point because I started filming all the pickups and it was too many. So I'm going to break it up. Seems like the right thing to do. But today we're going to talk about what I got yesterday as you're seeing this, because on Facebook, which is the better choice between my local Craigslist and Facebook, I actually made a couple of arrangements because I was also picking some stuff up in a certain area of town, and I like to try to find deals to make the trips worth it. For those of you that don't know, I'm in Northern Virginia. However, everything is very spread out here in terms of like congregations of population. So I'm in Northern Virginia, then you have the other side of Northern Virginia, which is like the Leesburg, Loudoun County area, and then you have Washington, D.C. area, then you have the Fairfax, Arlington area, and all these kind of are their own areas. So it's like an hour to go from here to there, from here to there, from here to there. So I like to make a big deal, not of making a big, it's a big deal. No, I like to make as many deals as possible to make the trip worth it. So, forgot something real quick. Hang on a second. Technically not a jump cut, just a pause. But I made a couple of deals with people, and they are paying off big time. So let's start with the first one. So I met a guy through Facebook. I was actually talking to his wife, but R9 Fury. Yeah, believe it or not, I've only had the water-cooled one before, the one that came with the integrated water cooler. And I've always wanted another one, and I'm a sucker for a nice Strix model of something or other. That's why the LED wasn't on, because the LED is not plugged in. We'll correct that later. This one has been repasted. I knew that when I picked it up, but the guy had it listed for 60 bucks. Man, pandemic pricing has gone away, thankfully. Although with the China 4090 thing, who knows? Watch what happens later on. But yeah, for $60, I got an R9 Fury X Asus Strix model. Asus had some of the best coolers back in the day. I'm not a fan of the 4090 cooler, which is why I didn't get their 4080, because they put blue and red. If they had just been black and red, I would have lived with it. But since they did blue and red, I'm kind of not their friends right now. But in addition to that, he also was like, hey man, I got some extra stuff laying around. You want some RAM? So this is DDR4 DOM Plat 4000 megahertz stuff. Now I believe it's just a 16 gigabyte kit. 8x4, 8 gig by 4. Okay, so these are actually 8 gig DIMMs. Cool. Sweet. So this is a 32 gig kit, which is nice. So it's a 32 gig kit of DDR4 4000 megahertz, which is on the higher end of DDR4 until you get into the extreme overclocking stuff. 20 bucks for 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM. DDR4 is right now where DDR3 was when it became obsoleted before it became collectible. To that end, obviously, we've got the next thing that we're going to pick up. But, oh, when I was walking away, we stood and talked for a while. He's got a badass 4 cars, actually, but he's got a few cars that I really liked. And we sat around talking for a while. But then he was also like, hey, man, you want an X99 chip? Because I told him that I love the X99 platform. So he gave me a 5820K for free. I'll take it. Could always use that. I need an X99 board to put it in, but I'll take it. The next pickup I did was for this guy. It was listed, all the parts weren't on it, but this is a Chinese X79 motherboard. So this is not a domestic market one. However, it was everything in the listing that really caught my eyeball. And that was the fact that it was 2 motherboards, RAM, and some other stuff. So let's talk about this real quick. So this is it's definitely an AliExpress wish feeling kind of motherboard. A lot of the chips look to be repurposed. I mean, it's using like clear connectors. That's all stuff that's indicative of the wish.com AliExpress level of quality. However, it is an X79, so that is a 2011 V1, technically just 2011 socket, because you have the V3s, which came out, and that's X99. But it is there. He gave me 32 gigs of Ripjaw Z DDR3. However, some kids ran out in the road in front of me and I had to hit the brakes, and one package of RAM fell under a seat, and I didn't realize until just now. But yeah, so 8 DIMMs of this, because in addition to this motherboard, he gave me that motherboard. And he gave me that one for free because he said it wasn't tested. It didn't work, possibly. And the reason he said that was because it had 2 pins that were broken and like 5 that were bent. But this is a Rampage 4 Extreme. Now the Extreme is awesome because it's made for overclocking. I've had this motherboard before, but yeah, it came in its original box. It comes with what you see there, which was a 4930K and the motherboard. Now I added the 64 gigs of DDR3 RAM. That's not staying on there. I just did it for fun. I'll probably wind up putting this Ripjaws 32 gig kit in there. But 64 gigs of matched DDR3 RAM, even though that's got a gold spreader on it, it's the same speed, everything. I have the other 2 sticks in my Hadron Air system. I forgot to swap them out, and but it looks fine like that. So you got, you know, some gold. But yeah, underneath there is a 4930K that's overclocked to 4.4 gigahertz on air, which is not smart because it does run a lot of heat. So this motherboard, the CPU that's in there, the RAM was $100, which is a good deal because that motherboard, if you try to replace it, because X79 is becoming enthusiast grade and people are starting to collect it, so it's flipping back towards being expensive. So that particular motherboard is like a $165 motherboard on eBay for the Rampage 4 Extreme, and then a 4930K is like $30. It's a 6-core 12-threaded processor, don't get me wrong, and it's faster than the 3930K. However, a 3960X or a 4960X, which is what's probably going to go on that board, are much faster for not that much more money. And that board is fully tested. I got it all to work good, and as you can see, I actually remembered I had this case. I built that on this, and they decided this was too small. However, this size is perfect for a test bench because it allowed me to throw a power supply there, and I don't have to run the cables up, but I did. I could have just left them hanging loose and just treated it like a test bench, but I wanted it a little bit better. But that's a Thermaltake P5. I miss my P7. The P7 is the full-size one that can take like a 520 mil or a 480 millimeter radiator, and it has actually this much room between here and the radiator, so it's much larger, almost the same size as my Enthoo that's actually dwarfing the Thermaltake. But that was pretty cool. In that bundle, though, I also got some stuff like this. EK water blocks. I think this one is it's a copper base, but it's not like an Evo or anything like that. It's an older one. I think it's of its day, but I can definitely use this block. This block will be usable for maybe water cooling that if I decide to water cool it to really see what I can get the clocks up to when I get a 4960X on it, or possibly something else, because that's not staying in there. I'm just waiting for an appropriate case to come up on Facebook. I don't like spending $200 on cases unless it's for my personal rig. But again, that's going to be a test bench, so all the cabling you see is just going to stay in there because it all needs to run on there. So for $100, I got all that, plus, you know, that's like a $40, $50 water block. But what's interesting is I already sold this. For those of you that don't know, the ROGs came with a bunch of stuff in the box, and this is the ROG OC key. And this guy is worth 20 bucks, so I sold it for 20 bucks, making that whole bundle 80 bucks. Pretty damn good. So 160 bucks for all the PC stuff you're seeing right there. You'll notice that's a 1300 watt Supernova. 1300 watt, because I like eBay. This was actually on eBay. It was probably a mining rig, but all the cables are there. A bunch of the cables were never used, obviously. And this guy was $58 plus $12 shipping. So for $70, I got a 1300 watt EVGA power supply. I've put a bigger load on it. I actually was running my 4080 overclocked on it, and it handled it no problem. So that was pretty interesting for a pickup. A kid on Facebook had a couple of power supplies because I think I mentioned it in a previous video. I was out of lower end power supplies. So I went ahead and picked up some stuff from this guy. It was like 35 bucks or 30 bucks. He had a Logitech controller, but I don't really use those. So I said, hey man, keep that, sell it, try to get some more money for your stuff. And then I took a couple of power supplies from him for 35 bucks. Now this guy is definitely older. Definitely older, but my X58 system actually already has this in it. I got to go over the systems at the office again, but in more detail. But yeah, this is a 750 watt fully modular power supply from a company called Ultra. Now, it was a pretty hefty unit, and it seems to be working fine, and it came with all its cables. The 12 volt rail is, well, I mean, they have the 12 volt rail showing that it can do a straight 750 watts, even though this is a 750 watt power supply. So that in and of itself is a first indicative notion that this isn't really 750 watt, but it's plenty good enough for that system, because I'm never going to run something super high end like a 4080 on a 750 watt. But what I really wanted was this one. This is a fully modular RM Series 750i from Corsair, and the reason I wanted this one is because, well, it's a Corsair, which is much more reliable. Again, complete, fully modular, and basically I paid, what would that be, 15 bucks a unit for a couple of 750 watt power supplies. And this is one that I don't mind putting in an actual system, but it's good to have these. That came up after I had committed to buying these. However, one thing that I do, and I fully encourage you, my kids of the internet, is go ahead and honor any deals you make, such as when you wind up and you already have a bunch of DDR3 or DDR4 DOM plats, including 2 different styles, and then you go ahead and add even more, because why wouldn't you? So then you have a giant stack of DDR4. If I get 4 more DIMMs, I want to get them with the Compellix. I don't think that's Compellix. That's just an LED light bar top. But I'm going to get 4 more with that top on it, and then I'll build a server board. There's a couple of Chinese ones that do dual 8 DIMMs for 2 CPUs, so you can have 16 DIMMs in it. So now I need 4 more. But yeah, that's a lot of Dominator DDR4, and I didn't pay a lot for it. Obviously the 20 bucks, and then I paid 30 bucks for a 16 gig kit of 3200 megahertz. And then I have this 16 gigabyte kit of 3000 megahertz. Yeah. What? You don't, anyway, you don't have that much extra RAM laying around? I don't know what's wrong with you. So yeah, I'm diving back into this pretty heavy. To all of that, next week, actually the end of this month, December here, I'm going to be doing some online learning, some classes and stuff, because I've been using Adobe since 2017, but I've never taken the time to really learn it. So I'm going to probably do some online, watch a ton of videos over the next week or so, really get like good at using Adobe with like After Effects, stuff like that. And then hopefully I can start doing some better edited videos, because I want to increase the quality of the videos. That is a goal of mine. So if you're interested in seeing all that, make sure to come back. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. I know it's a little bit long and rambly for not a ton of content, but there are fun deals to be had, and these will be getting tested on the channel. I am at the office with a lot of it now, so keep that in mind. I will be moving forward, going back to the office to do more testing, but these I just picked up today, and I've been testing them this evening to make sure it all worked. And so far it all works. So don't be afraid to make a deal. Have some fun. And as always, I'll talk to you later.